Hello everybody and welcome back to Uptown Villa Park. My name is Al Stash and we've got a special show for you today. Just two of us are here today. I am here with my good friend and co-host, Sid Burke. How are you, Sid?
I am just simply fabulously great. And when I'm not, I'm faking it out and permit me to keep me looking good. See, what happened, I looked at the monitor and I saw how bad I looked. But that's life. You know, when you get to up in age, you can just say, "The heck with it," you know. And
I got to tell you though, Sid, you look fine. You look great. You look like it's date night. That's what you look like. You look like you're ready to go out and have a good time. And we got lots of things to talk about where you can go.
Well, that's something that I'd like to know because I still. Well, so I'll open that up and drink it later. Because I am still on the go. I use a cane, but that's more or less to ask for pity and so things. I can say, people, get out of my way. I'm an old man.
Which you never do. You're always kind to people and make them feel welcome. We don't have one of our co-hosts here today, Dennis Keating. He's having a medical procedure done today, or has, so he'll be off for the week. We won't pay him, except for half of his pay. So, Dennis, we're thinking about you, and if you're watching, just stop watching and go back and heal and get better. So, we look forward to seeing you the next time we're on the air.
You mean you're cutting his pay in half? He's only getting 1 0 instead of 2 0?
1 0. 1 0.
Oh, goodness sake.
We as all volunteers get that much pay and all of the perks and benefits of coming in here to do the show, which is awesome. You got to tell you that, Sid. Hey, Sid, you're going to be celebrating a birthday here pretty soon, aren't you?
There goes off our Tuesday morning siren at 10 o'clock.
That's to celebrate your birthday.
Yeah. My birthday will be June 24th, and I'll be 90.
June 24th, you will be 90 years old.
Yeah, and I can't, I don't understand how I made it this far, but I just thank you, good Lord, for the good life.
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome. Anybody who achieves 90 years has attained some knowledge on things, not only knowledge of important things like science and math and reading, but also social things like phrases, idioms, things that we use in life that mean something, get misquoted a lot, just like song lyrics of music. If you ever driven in a car with somebody who sings loudly the wrong words, it's annoying. But we have a bunch of phrases that I'm going to test your 90 years knowledge on to see if you know these phrases, and then we'll talk about where they come from and what they actually mean. You ready?
You know what, folks? I hope you understood what he said when he was talking over the siren. Well, if he didn't, it's okay.
Yeah, the siren's loud to us, but not in the background. And by the way, that siren is a test of the warning siren that's used. They used to call it an air raid siren, which meant that bombers were coming in from Europe or something, and that never happened. But that siren is to signal a weather situation here in Villa Park. So if you hear that siren, that means there is a identified weather problem. It could be a funnel cloud, a suspected tornado, whatever that might be. And if you do hear that siren, they're placed all throughout town. If you do hear that siren, just go to a lower level, an indoor place away from windows, and if you have a radio for weather, turn it on so you get information. But don't stand by the window and look out and see what's going on, because if there is in fact a tornado or a strong weather event and it breaks the window, you're going to get hurt. And if you're in a car, pull over. Get out of the car and get to a lower level. People say, well, I'm going to stay in the car. If it's a tornado, a car is no match for a tornado, and that car will be taken up in the air, and you don't want to be that person. You want to be at a lower level where the wind can't get to you. If you're in a commercial building or a school, stay away from wide open roofed areas, gymnasiums, things like that. You always see in tornado damage where a gymnasium in a high school collapses. You don't want to be in those areas. You want to be in a small area that's got nearby walls in an interior room or possibly in a lower level. So hopefully, knock on wood, or Formica or whatever that is. We won't have those situations this year. But let's get back to these sayings.
Al, I wanted to comment on that
Yeah.
for a little bit. A million years ago, I had a bungalow on Wisconsin Avenue, and we had converted the attic into bedrooms for the kids. And on the front bedroom facing west, one of my boy Jimmy was up there, and he came running down. The rest of us were in the kitchen. He came running down. He says, "There's a funnel cloud going over." And so instead of doing what Al just said,
Yeah.
we had to go to the back door and look up. And by that time, the funnel cloud had dissipated. But
Yeah.
it was going in circles. And I thought to myself later on, you guys, you were pretty dumb, and you were teaching your kids pretty dumb.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Not
a
bad.
natural thing to say, oh, let me go see what's going on. And people get hurt, and 9 times out of 10, I mean, there has never really been a major event like that, like we've heard about in the past in Missouri and other places, where whole blocks were leveled by a funnel cloud. And you think about it, they say, well, it never can go to the city. There'll never be a funnel cloud in the city because of the big buildings. Okay, a funnel cloud can be a mile wide. There's no building that's a mile wide that's going to affect a funnel cloud. What really affects the weather in our area, of course, is the Lake Michigan, which is big enough to be a significant change to the weather. We see it all the time. But I was down in Tennessee, and there was a funnel cloud approaching Nashville, Tennessee, downtown Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's like 4 high buildings, maybe 4 40-story buildings, something like that, 60 or maybe. And they're saying, well, it won't hit the city because of the skyscrapers. Are you kidding me? Come on. A mile-wide weather event, Mother Nature doesn't care about buildings. So you're not safe in a structure like that. Go to an interior room. Don't stand by the window with your nose pressed up against it, looking to see what's happening. Just wait it out in a nice, safe place, lower level, interior room. Bathroom is good, but something away from windows and outside walls.
Back
What do
in
you
the
think?
60s, Al, there was a tornado struck down at 95th and Southwest Highway
Yeah,
in Oak Lawn, and people died.
yeah,
And I think the same storm had split off, and half of it went up, and one of the guys I worked with, I forget the town, but it was up on the northern suburb that got hit, and his house was quite heavily damaged.
yeah, yeah. It can happen. And it doesn't have to be a tornado. A lot of times they'll say, let's verify that it was a tornado, and you see like a whole block gone. And it can be a wall of wind that comes ahead of a storm that can reach, high mile-per-hour velocities that will do just as much damage as a tornado sometimes,
sure.
And then if it's a small tornado, they say, well, it wasn't that significant. Any kind of weather like that is significant if it can be damage to your home or your property or your well-being. So take those sirens that we heard to heart, and make sure that you heed the warning when you hear them. Don't run to the window to see what's going on. Sid, I got something for you that I want to test your knowledge on these phrases that people have used year over year. And and people at home, you can play along. I'm going to give you time to play this game too. I'm going to say the first part of the phrase, and Sid is going to think about what is the second part of the phrase. And then after we figure out if that's true and if he said it correctly, we'll talk about the meaning of that phrase, what it actually does mean, because sometimes they're confusing, and where it came from. What was the origin of the phrase? Are you ready, Sid?
I'm ready. Ready for Freddie? No, it's Al I'm ready for.
I don't have that one on the list, but we'll try to find one similar to that. Okay, this one is something that people do actually quote properly. So this one's going to be easy. We'll start out easy. I'm going to say the first part. Pause for a second. Let the audience think about it, and then tell me what you think the last part of the phrase is. Okay?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay. Here's the first one. A bird in the hand is. Sid.
Worth 2 in the bush.
A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. And the meaning is it's better to have a lesser but certain advantage than the possibility of a greater one that becomes nothing.
And being as one that likes to gamble, a little bit and has lost a lot of money and loves casinos and has paid their dividends, I think, quite a bit.
You built a couple of them, huh?
Yeah, I think so. And it's so true. If I'd have kept the money in my palm of my hands that I put into casinos, I'd have a stack about yay high.
You'd have a lot of bushes you could put around the house, right? Well, let me tell you what the origin is. The proverb refers back to medieval falconry, falcons, the birds, where a bird in the hand, the falcon, which is where they usually hold the bird, was a valuable asset and certainly worth more than any two birds in any bushes. So that's where that phrase comes from. But it does mean, in fact, hang on to what you know is certain. Don't gamble too much away with your property, and think about what you have.
And you know, that's even at the age of 90, I can learn something new.
Well, here's one. When I looked this one up, I learned a lot from it because it is probably misunderstood more than any one I've got on the list here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to read the first part. We're going to pause, Sid, and then you tell us what you believe the second part of this, or the end of the phrase is. And that is, a friend in need
is a friend indeed.
Okay, all right. Now, that phrase by itself doesn't make sense. If Sid said, he needed something, that doesn't make him any more of a friend to me than before. It's just he's a friend in need, right? Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying, Sid? It's kind of confusing so far, right?
So far, you're absolutely right. But let me one up you on this, Al, and say the friend indeed. If your friend really needs something, maybe it's just a pat on the back, and you give it to him, then you've helped him. You've helped him to a degree, whether it's a little bit or a lot. It's something that you've done, and that's where your friend indeed is a friend indeed.
Right. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Now, the thing about that phrase is the last word or words. Indeed. Okay? Indeed, as we have said it, and I have always understood it, is certainly, indeed, it is a friend. Right?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. Indeed, he's a friend. But it's actually possibly two words. Indeed. Okay, so let me explain that. The way we read it the first time, a friend, when you are in need, is a true friend indeed. So if I'm in need and I have a friend, they'll possibly help me, just like you said. Okay, so indeed you are a friend, right?
Right.
Good understanding of that phrase. Good way to use the word indeed as one word at the end. Okay. However, this is how it's in two words. Indeed, two separate words. A friend, when you are in need, is someone who is prepared to act or show it by a deed that they perform, some act. Okay. So a friend in need is a friend indeed, not indeed.
Al is not quite that smart. He read the book.
That's right. Okay. That's right. You're telling the truth. And here's another way. A friend who is in need, somebody else, is indeed a true friend. That's what we talk about, right? And here's the last way to put it. A friend who is in need is someone who is prepared to act or show it. So they'll do kind things so that you have pity on them and help them. Okay? Now, I don't know how that's going to change anything, the way we use that phrase, but there's a lot of ways to look at it.
Well, in one respect, it's kind of ambiguous because we say a friend in need is a friend indeed.
Yeah.
Well, is that friend who is in need, is he a friend? Is he a friend indeed? Or is it the person he's referring to as a friend will help the person in need? And that's kind of ambiguous.
I think we could do a whole show on that. Don't you think so? Well, here, let's move on to another one. I have only, I think, 6 of these, so we're not going to take an hour doing this.
Let me ask you a question. Let me put you on the spot. And this is unrehearsed, folks.
Okay.
Well, do you know whose picture is on a $10 bill?
$10 bill, Grant. No, not Grant. Not Jackson, that's a $20 bill.
You're guessing.
Yeah, I'm guessing. I know I'm looking at 20s and 50s. I don't remember a 10. Who is it?
Alexander Hamilton.
Which means nothing. I know he's a president, but
No, he was not a president. He was the first, I believe, the first Secretary of the Treasury.
oh, so even less important.
Wait a minute. I'll take all the Hamiltons I can get.
Yeah.
And of course, I believe, and because I don't have any in my pocket, but I believe Grant is on a $50 bill.
Right, that's what I said. Grant's on a 50. Andrew Jackson's on a 20, but they're looking to change that. You heard that. There's a proposal to change that to a Indian woman from the movie, Pocahontas. They want to change the $20 bill to Pocahontas and give more credit to the American Indian than Andrew Jackson. And one of the negatives of Andrew Jackson was that he was a prolific slave owner during his time. And that's kind of the bent that people are using to say that it's time to take his likeness off the bill.
What they did in forming the country and starting out, the bad things, like most of us, we sweep what we don't, our lesser, our evils, we sweep under the counter or under the rug.
Yeah.
And that's another thing you can use. We'll sweep that one under the rug.
Okay, I got another one for you.
One.
I got another one. I didn't have that one, but I got another one. Here's the next one. And remember, you're going to finish the second part of this phrase, and we'll wait for the audience to try their hand at it too. A rolling stone
Gathers no moss.
Okay, what does that mean?
I would guess that if we don't take and examine all our facts that we are getting and just keep moving on, that we're going to miss something.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it'll mean if you're always moving, you're not going to be all mossy and all stuck in the mud type thing.
Okay. All right. The definitive meaning is someone who does not settle in one place rarely prospers. Okay. So you're not going to sit there and do nothing. You're going to move on and prosper from your action. Okay. And it's a proverb that refers to a well-known fact about moss and lichens, and that is they slowly grow, but only in non-disturbed places. So a rock that sits there forever could gather moss, but if you keep moving around, it won't. Okay? So the phrase "a rolling stone gathers no moss" became extremely popular in our culture over the last 40 years plus because of a rock band that used that to create their own name, and that was who?
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 Not who. The Rolling Stones.
The Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
Oh,
in fact,
by golly, yeah. That's something I hadn't even thought of.
a good name for a rock band, you might think, and Brian Jones thought just that when he formed the blues rock band in 1962 called the Rolling Stones. Isn't that cool?
And they were very, very popular.
Yeah, yeah. Still to this day, I mean, if Rolling Stones and they announce a concert, you are late already trying to get tickets. That's how popular they still are to this day. And they're quite elderly now. Not your elderly, not your experience, but mine plus, I think. 60, I'm 60, those 61, so I think they're all above that. So a Rolling Stone gathers no moss actually created the name for Rolling Stones.
Yes.
Okay? You ready for the next one, Sid?
I'll try.
You're doing great so far. I mean, your knowledge is exemplary. Here's the next one. An apple a day.
Keeps the doctor away.
Okay. I've heard that constantly. In fact, I actually do that. I eat apples frequently because I like apples, but because I think it's healthy. Don't you? Don't you think it's healthy?
I used to eat a lot of apples until I got these teeth that don't quite fit.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you eat an apple now, or you cut it up? I mean, you got to still cut.
I'll cut it up.
Yeah, yeah. They're good for you, right?
One of these days I'm going to get the teeth fixed again, But my dentist said that, well, it'll be a couple days before you'll be without them. And how can I look at it? How can I look at myself?
Yeah.
Let alone let somebody else look at me without those choppers.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, here's the thing about apples. If you go to the Jewel, somebody says, "Go get me an apple." There are 20 different apples at Jewel. And if you go to Pete's Market, there's probably 30. And they're definitely different. My preference, some people like golden apples.
Mm-hmm.
They're the yellow apples, and they're quite tasty. Large apples, usually. And some like delicious apples, kind of in the same shape with the hourglass kind of, or tapered look.
The
I
epitome of the apple
Yeah,
is
well,
delicious.
Yeah, that's the delicious. But the one I like is the Macintosh. Macintosh apple. It's nice and round. It's not hard. It's soft, flavorful, all of that. And I keep looking for those. So all of the grocers, if you want my business, you got to have Macintosh apples because that keeps the doctor away. And here's why it keeps the doctor away according to what I found on the internets. An apple has a good claim to promote health. They contain vitamin C. I didn't know that. I thought oranges and other citric fruit was vitamin C, which aids in the immune system. So it helps you ward off germs and other things. It also contains something called phenols, which helps reduce cholesterol. That stuff that clogs up our arteries and makes it difficult for us to keep blood flowing through our system. And they help in reducing tooth decay by cleaning teeth and killing off bacteria. And it's also suggested by Cornell University that a certain product found in apples protects brain cells against neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's disease. So apples help not only with vitamin C and cholesterol and keeping your arteries clean and your teeth healthy, but it also helps with Alzheimer's. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Once again, we learn something every day, and today I'm learning a lot more than just one thing.
So now there's a rush for apples over at the Jewel, and I'm not going to find my Macintosh because everybody else is going to buy them, and they don't really have enough. Jewel, you don't have enough Macintosh, and bigger sign so I can find it. I got another one for you. Ready, Sid?
Get it ready.
Okay. Don't throw the baby out
With the bath water.
That's awesome and grotesque phrase to be using at any one time. It's kind of like, why would you even think of that? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And the meaning is, don't discard something valuable along with something invaluable, not valuable, undesirable. So don't throw something away if there's something of value in it, like a baby. I don't know where that would come from, but now we are going to learn, right? What do you think that means, or where that came from?
I don't know where it came. I have no idea where it came from, Al. But I will tell you this: that some of us, we have things that should be discarded. That because of some type of sentimental value over the line, and I have a lot of them. That we just say no. That stays. And if somebody else is trying to help you get rid of stuff, they say, "But why?" And you say, "Sentimental."
Yeah.
And that's it, period.
Yeah.
And of course, it's something that we just wonder why.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to explain it to you. There's actually two answers. And a lot of times, what I'm reading is the most accepted answer. There's always an alternative. And the next one we talk about, I'm going to point that out specifically. But this one has two separate meanings, and that is, in medieval times, there was scarce availability of bath water. So they didn't take baths, or definitely not showers, but didn't wash daily like we do. They washed very infrequently, and sometimes once a month, once a year, okay, which is totally ridiculous. I would not want to live in that time period. But the custom was that once they started a bath, they went by seniority in who took a bath. And they didn't change the water. That's the water you have. So the father of the house, the man of the house, would start and take a bath, then the lady of the house, and then the children, by their age, would continue to take a bath in the same water. Okay? And eventually, when it got down to the babies, which is really gross, the water was not very nice. Okay? But the baby would take a bath in that, and you were in a rush to throw the bath water out. Don't forget there's a baby in there was one of the meanings, okay? You believe that's it?
Well, let's say this, Al. Sometimes I'm gullible, and what you tell me, I'll believe.
Okay, all right, good.
Also, that bridge you sold me, I'm having trouble.
Having trouble finding it, huh? Well, it's on the map. It's on the map. I'll show you. And there's another one, and this one's harder to understand, but I'm going to try to explain it a little bit better. In the time of slavery, the 1850s, 1840s, 2 centuries ago now, wow, there was a lot of talk about slavery. And a British author wrote a piece condemning slavery in the United States and talked about getting rid of the slaves that were part of the plantations and the southern parts of the United States, but not the individuals, not those people that were slaves. And he used this phrase to describe that, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater being slavery, and the baby being the person who was a slave, because they still have obvious value. They should be treated appropriately. In fact, he suggested that they could still do the jobs that they would do as slaves, but be paid for it and be free. So that's the more highbrow version of that phrase, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I tend to believe that the original one about everybody taking a bath in the same water is more accurate.
It's probably this fellow that wrote the article you're referring to probably got that from the same way.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is,
and he just reused it.
Yeah, the water's been reused.
He was actually a German scholar, Thomas Carlyle. I said British, he was actually German.
Oh, okay.
All right. So that's the second to last one, but this one really points to your time. Now, you were born when, Sid?
1926.
1926. So in the time of World War II, the beginning of World War II, let's call it December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. That would be the beginning of World War II for the United States, right?
That's right.
And subsequent to that, it was an all-out effort to fight the war not only in the Pacific against the Japanese, but also D-Day was just a few days ago. D-Day, where we invaded Europe along with our allies to fight the Germans. Correct? I have history right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the United States had to convert a lot of manufacturing into war-related product. In other words, a shoe factory would no longer produce shoes unless they were intended for the army and soldiers. A car factory was converted, like the major factories, to building tanks and the like. So, and the people that lived who were not already in the war, those at home, the families, had to ration things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. What kind of things were rationed during World War II?
You mentioned shoes. Shoes were rationed.
Yeah.
But the biggest part that hit most people was gasoline.
Yeah.
And if you weren't able to convince somebody that you needed more gasoline for to help the war effort, you got 3 gallons a week.
Yeah.
And that was to take you to the grocery store if you lived too far away, if you didn't pull a little red wagon.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that hit people, and I've often wondered afterwards whether it was it was done to bring home the war effort to people, was sugar.
Okay.
Because almost everybody used sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And by rationing it, because it was needed for the war effort, did we bring home the fact that, hey, we're at war, we've got to do this, everything.
Yeah. Right down to like victory gardens where people would plant their
Sure.
own vegetables in the
Yeah.
backyard, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and what? How did you pay? How did you ration? You had some kind of mechanism to say this is my share of gas, or this is my share of bread. How did you get that in the house?
You would say what the average mileage of a car was, and I work in a war plant because just about every factory was a war plant,
Yeah.
or making something for it, and so that you had to have gas to get there,
Yeah.
plus your 3 gallons
Right.
that you could use for personal use.
Well, there was more than just a conversation about what I need. For a household, you were allocated certain things to go to the grocery store and get meat and bread and other things, right? And those were paper coupons, right?
Ration books.
Ration book. Okay, tell us
Yeah.
about the ration book. What was that like? Do you
Oh,
remember?
golly, you're asking me to think about 75 years ago.
You can do it. You got a
I
ration book.
can?
You got a ration book, and that was used in any item that you needed for the household, whether it was food or
Well, it would
clothing,
be,
right?
It would be the sugar.
Yeah.
It would be gasoline. Well, you had to have your coupon for gasoline.
Right.
And other things that I can't bring mind. I seem to remember that meat was rationed for
Right.
a while.
Right. Right.
And those things were, as before I went into the service at 17. And before that, as a wild teenager, well, I never was in trouble, but I'd like to say if I hadn't gone in the service, I probably would have been a delinquent.
Yeah.
And that was just that. So I didn't pay all that much attention. I know my folks who had a little delicatessen, it was Berg's Food Shop on Westmore Avenue, Westmore and Division, and that they were always cussing out the ration stamps and how we had to do that,
Yeah.
and of course we had stamps. Let's see, I'm trying to think of what we call them. The war bonds, and we have war stamps that we could place a 10-cent stamp into a little booklet, and when we got, I think it was $18.75 worth, we could get a $25 bond.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a form of saving. But when you needed product on a day-to-day basis at the Berg's food shop, whatever you called it at that time, your parents called it at that time, someone would come in with this rationing coupon and say, here's my coupon that I've been allocated, given to me by the government so that I can get sugar, meat, or whatever. But they didn't have a coupon for steak and a coupon for sugar and a coupon. They had a coupon that was worth X amount, like $1 or whatever. That coupon was worth $1. But if the sugar or whatever you were buying was less than that, there had to be some sort of change system. Here's what you get back because you gave me too much in that coupon, right? And we didn't use coins because they wanted the copper and all of the metals for the war effort, right?
We had aluminum. Aluminum was, even though it was a beautiful metal most of the aircraft were converted from cloth to aluminum, was in such supply that pennies were made of aluminum.
Yeah, yeah.
And that part I do remember now. Some of this stuff that you're throwing at me, I just don't
Is in the
remember.
past. It's in the past. Okay. Well, let me give you the phrase then, because this is all a preface for this phrase. I would not give you. Go ahead.
1 red cent.
1 red cent for that you're trying to give me or sell me, whatever it is. And 1 red cent is a demeaning value of a penny, right? 1 penny coin, the least amount possible to pay for anything. We don't have, half pennies or half pennies like
And
that.
a copper coin was generally called red. That's where it came from. It was a
Exactly.
reddish color.
Exactly. And copper was popular before the war effort because it was used for pennies, but then they changed to zinc and others that they wanted the copper for munitions and things like that. But there's a couple of ways that this phrase may have come to pass or been used more often, and that is this whole discussion about rationing. There was a coupon, and then the purveyors of goods were given small, actually cardboard red cents, and some were blue. Some were red, some were blue. And it said on there, 1 cent. And that was the change that someone would give you when you paid too much in the rationing coupon for any product, okay? And in fact, I came across 2 of them in my grandfather's belongings, along with his Social Security card and other things. And they are, in fact, about this, they're actually smaller than a penny. They're round, like about that big. You take pills that are bigger than these things sometimes. And it says on there, red cent, or 1 cent, and it was all cardboard. They're still in great shape. I don't know how they pressed them or how they made them. You know, cardboard today wouldn't last, like a business card or something like that. And they're beautiful. I looked online. That red cent is now worth 70 cents if you were to buy it to sell it to somebody.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was even less than a rationing coupon in value at the time. So that's where some people thought it came from. But what you said, Sid, was even more accurate, and that is that pennies, because they were made of copper, had the appearance of being red when they were all copper. You know, the older pennies. And that was until actually 1983. 1 cent coins were made primarily of copper. And it was always reddish. And the other problem with a penny is that what was on the penny before Lincoln? Some of the things.
Let's see. Earlier on, I think there was an Indian on there.
There you go. Stop
And-
right there. That's the point. An Indian was on a penny. The penny was red. Okay? The derogatory term for an American Indian is a red.
Redskin.
Redskin, right. So a penny being the lowest denomination, the cheapest thing that you could offer to someone, and to say I would not give you 1 red cent meant 1 Indian head copper penny.
Now I wish I had a few of those Indian heads.
Yeah, I know. They're probably worth more than 70
Oh.
cents.
You know, I have a friend that was a reservation Indian.
Yeah.
And I told her one time, I said, well, you know, I hate Indians. And she kind of got back with her hackles, came up and said, oh.
Yeah, what's wrong?
And I said, yeah, I was at Four Winds Casino, which is an Indian casino, Indian owned and operated. And I said, they took all my money.
Yeah, and you don't actually hate Indians. You probably love the fact that they created that casino for you to go enjoy the entertainment.
You know, as a kid, I remember one time trying to talk, being at a Boy Scout camp, and up in northern Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And on one of our field trips to somewhere, there was a little Indian kid that was trying to swim upstream through a bridge through a heavy current, and finally came out of the water. And I wanted to talk to him. Someone said, "Don't talk to him. He's an Indian."
Yeah,
And I would say, "So what?"
yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
And but the prejudice that we had then.
Yeah, yeah.
And later on in life, when I was in the service, there was a fellow that was, his name was, I think Abraham B. Kimball, A.B. Kimball.
A.B. Kimball, okay?
And at that time, there was a heavy prejudice against Jewish people.
Yeah.
I think that came from Europe. But he changed his name to Johnny. He
Really?
changed because he didn't want to be called A.B.
Ah, okay.
Not A.B., but A.B.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
And,
a lot of things like that have come to pass in terms of racism. Let's just give it the word. And you know, people keep going back about this whole immigration thing for not only the Mexican population but many others, Europe and others, and saying we don't want them. We don't want immigrants. My grandparents were immigrants. They came from Germany and Poland.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure your ancestors were immigrants, came from different...
Both all my grandfather, my 2 grandmothers and my grandfather, my fourth grandparent was dead,
Yeah,
came from Sweden.
Sweden, yeah, okay.
And,
So
so-
you're a descendant, you're an anchor baby? okay, as I am. And they say, well, you know, the only true non-immigrants are the indigenous American Indians. And in fact, that's still not true. They came from elsewhere as well. I mean, they came either through the Bering Straits or through other mechanisms to get to North America where we are today. And, but you give them credit because, yes, the Europeans did come to the United States and, you know, it started with a turkey dinner and then things changed. Yeah, you know.
It was such a thing, prejudiced, where I probably at my age, maybe I should be more prejudiced, but I think it's a horrible thing.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
People, I learned early in life, and when I was in the service, I was had a chance where I was in charge of an officer's barracks to cleaning it, and I had all people who were black doing it. And in those days, in the service, most of the black people were relegated to either mess cooks, or cleaning.
Yeah.
And boy, I found out in a heck of a hurry, maybe I should use a little stronger term, that these people, the only difference between them and I were the color of our skin.
No, the
That
outer
was
layers.
it, period.
The outer layers, that's all.
Brains, oh, some of them had real
Like
brains.
anybody, like
Yeah.
anybody. You know, some have different levels of intelligence.
And,
that's not a factor, right? Right.
It was really hitting home.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that.
And I had another case about prejudice. Let me
ahead,
just
go
indulge me.
Get on your soapbox, Sid.
I had gone to California on my thumb. I was a hitchhiker, and this was in 1947.
Oh, were you like a flower child or a hippie?
No, this was in 1947.
Oh, okay.
That was before the hippies.
You didn't
And,
take a train, did you? You weren't
well, at that time, hitchhiking was still more or less of an honorable thing.
Yeah.
And on the way back, I had spent 2 days in the motel, and my money was so low. I said, I'm going to stay out on the highway, and with my thumb out, if I have to go down into a culvert to sleep.
Yeah.
And a guy picked me up. I'd say 9:30, 10 o'clock. It was dark, and this was like in pretty close to June, I think it was in.
And where were you?
Somewhere in Texas.
Texas. Okay.
I think it was Amarillo. And he picked me up, and I remember him saying, he said, you know, I said, he asked me where I was going, I said Chicago, and he asked me things about Chicago. He asked dumb questions, like, well, Washington Boulevard, that runs north and south, doesn't it? And of course I would say, no, that runs east and west. In fact, I've lived close to it, and questions like that.
Yeah. Was he testing?
And then
you?
he decided, later on, he actually told me, I didn't realize it at the time, except I thought, you know, it was kind of dumb, the questions. And then he said, no, I was testing you.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to Chicago too.
Okay.
And
Wanted to see if he'd kick you out the car, right?
yeah, and he said if I didn't answer the questions right, I was going to say, I'm just going down the road. In fact, I would have turned off the road at a good, well-lighted intersection.
Right. Good. That's a good thing to do. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now this fellow was Jewish,
Uh-huh.
and practicing Jewish, and opening up, I think, was he was relocating to Texas from Chicago to open up an appliance store. And so I lived with him for probably 2 days, what it took us to get from there, and drove his car, and we talked and talked and talked, and I found out this guy had brains. He was smart, and as prejudiced, why would I think of he was bad? Why would I think he or his race was bad, or his religion was bad? And then we got back to thinking, and boy, that was, Hitler probably was one of the greatest ones that used the term of the Jews were, the Jewish people were the ones that caused the economy to collapse in the world.
Yeah.
And became the Chancellor of Germany and wanted to rule the world.
Yeah. And destroy and kill Jews. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think prejudiced, I try my best not to be prejudiced against anybody. Maybe that sounds like I'm trying to build myself up, but that's not true. It's the way that life is, because people are people are people.
Right.
Al, you and I, well, we're friends.
Mm-hmm.
We're friends. But, and I like you as a friend. I think you're a great guy. And intelligent, too. And you want to buy lunch?
I'll get it, yeah. I'm good.
I think I better get off my soapbox because...
Well, let me tell you something, because we were talking about different orientations, whether it's religious or background, their heritage or whatever. And we're talking about American Indians, and I don't mean to demean the value of American Indians at all, but like we said, everybody's moving constantly. In fact, the American Indians moved against each other constantly throughout North America, before we were here and after, etc. The Potawatomis against the Croy, all kinds of things happened where they wanted their land and they wanted, crazy
in our
things.
property, in
That's just
our
human nature.
world, we've got Starved Rock.
Yeah, that's right, right. And Black Hawk and all of those former Indian chiefs that lived in this area. Well, we have an Indian chief of police right here in Villa Park. And I'm not going to say his name because it's his...
His Polish name.
Yeah, don't say his name, because it's his story, it's his thing. And he is a police officer here in Villa Park. He was the chief of police on an Indian reservation in the West, and is part Indian, and came here to Villa Park, and now he's a part-time officer here for the village of Villa Park. Great guy. I love talking to him. And people say, well, you wouldn't know to look at them. It doesn't matter what they look like, in terms of, he doesn't, have the headband on and feathers sticking out of his head and then puts a police cap on. It's, the movie version of an American Indian. And, the word prejudice, prejudge someone, is silly. There's no way you can prejudge someone by their appearance or what they do, what their job is in life. If you're a janitor or a CEO, it doesn't indicate your value as a person. That's my opinion. But
I worked with people that, there was a couple of people that I was very good friends with, were of Italian descent.
Yeah.
And one guy who used the term to himself as, "Oh, I'm a Dago."
Yeah.
So what? And because what we used the term for was sort of friendship.
Yeah.
And what more thin-skinned, another guy that, I'll tell you more about him. That word was horrible.
Yeah, it
That
is.
raises hackles.
It's a
right up.
derogatory term.
And that particular man, I worked with, and I worked at the VFW with, and even in the earlier days when we were doing this, playing pinochle with.
Yeah.
And at his funeral, I had the privilege of doing a eulogy. And part of it, I told his family, I said, I should be your brothers and I should be your uncle. Because the way Al and I fought, we would have fought like brothers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's good to tease people when you're friends with them with terms like that. But when they're used in a mean, negative, derogatory way, then they're absolutely wrong. And by the way, we want to mention that just the last 2 days has been the beginning of Ramadan, which is the Muslim 1 month of fasting, a very important religious period of time for the Muslim Islam faith. And so their way of honoring that time period is to fast between dawn and dusk every day for 30 days or 28 days, depending upon the moon cycles.
Doesn't Ramadan change? It's not always in June. It changes to different parts of the year, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know parts of the year, but they look for a crescent moon to signal a beginning of Ramadan, and then another moon cycle to the end, either 28 or 30 days later. So we're in that period right now, and so our Muslim residents here in Villa Park will be honoring Ramadan with additional prayer and fasting from dawn until dusk for the next 28 to 30 days.
And being, hopefully you don't take offense at this, folks, but you get kind of hungry when it's in June, just about the longest days of the year.
So it's a real test of their religious faith. And that's an important thing for us to remember, that there's a lot of different ways to profess your faith, and in this country, any one of them is appropriate. I want to talk about some recent events here, Sid, that's happened here in Villa Park, and we've been covering those as part of our role as TV VP-style producers and video people. And that is, first of all, the French Market. Have you been out to the French Market here in Villa Park yet?
I haven't been there this year.
Yeah.
Now, again, folks, I have to tell you that being as, I never was much of a cook, you know, little maybe steak on the grill or hamburgers on the grill type thing. And when Annie passed away, I did most of my, well, even when she was in the later years of our life, we spent an awful lot of time at Simon's.
Yeah, okay.
And
well,
other restaurants in town.
when you want to cook and you have the capability to cook, you should go to the French Market. I had I went there over the weekend and got some tomatoes, asparagus, and peaches.
Apples?
Peaches. I didn't get any apples. They didn't have Macintosh, so I didn't get any of those. But there's also flowers there by Lisa Sawchuk. She's producing flowers and different arrangements. Lisa Sawchuk. A friend of mine and her husband Tom and Lisa run Linitu bicycle repair.
Oh, I didn't know that they had. Yes, I know them well.
Yeah, Tom and Lisa, and they're actually doing bike repair at the French Market.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's a great spot because they're right on the path. They're at Ardmore and Park here in Villa Park, right by the Community Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary Park clock and the old depot that was the CA&E train station on Ardmore. And they have flowers. They have flowers, fruits, vegetables, and baked goods. So even if you don't cook, you can still get baked goods there. So, go ahead, you said something. I talked over you.
No. Tom is a very good bicycle repairman.
Yes, excellent,
And,
excellent.
It's funny. They come in, they volunteer at the VFW,
Yeah.
which gives me an in to say, don't forget, every Friday we have that delicious, well, I call it the Friday night feast. And other people, like maybe even Al would call it the fish fry.
Yeah.
But there's other things. Of course, in the realm of fish, we have it's cod, North Atlantic cod, and not farm stuff, and which makes a difference. And it's usually we get a lot of compliments on it, and it's both grilled and deep fried, and there's shrimp, and then of course there's hamburgers and bratwurst and that sort of thing. I think now there's even mac
Wow, okay.
that we have.
Excellent, excellent. Well, another thing, while I was at the French Market, I was actually there for two reasons, and that is that I got a chance to see Tom and Lisa doing their bike repair thing over at the end of the French Market there, and I think they're there every week now. But also, the law enforcement torch run started right there by the gazebo, by the Chamber of Commerce. And the law enforcement torch run is our statewide law enforcement personnel actually have a torch like they do in the Olympics, and they run through the towns to raise money for Special Olympics. And if you've been following us, a couple weeks ago there was a Cop on the Top event at the Lighthouse here in Villa Park at St. Charles and Ardmore. And there they sold T-shirts and coffee and donuts and pins and hats to raise money for Special Olympics, which are people who are challenged physically still have Olympics, and they compete against each other, and that will take place in Springfield later this month. But the law enforcement torch run was actually the torch run where police officers and explorers from Villa Park went along a path from the gazebo down Ardmore to St. Charles Road all the way to St. Charles and 83, where they would transfer that torch onto Elmhurst. And the torch came from cities like Lombard all the way out to Wheaton before it got to Villa Park. So leading the way was Deputy Chief Michael A. He's been a guest here on our show. And we got a video on YouTube, TV Villa Park style on YouTube. We'll find it for you. And they made it all the way. They went in from the gazebo to the way station on St. Charles and 83 for the truck way station. And all of them made it. There was no casualties along the way. They had a nice procession with the command center. The big Winnebago truck was behind. Lots of DuPage County Sheriff's vehicles, sirens blaring, and they just were a motorcade going through the Villa Park all the way to the end. So a great, great event.
And let me add to that. We have a patron, a member of the Villa Park VFW, who is at the, I see him at the fish fry and talk to him. And his daughter, Ann, is a challenged person.
Yeah.
And she loves the Olympics, and she came in, I think in a 100-yard dash, she came in second in the Illinois version.
Oh, good for her. What's her name? Do you know her name?
Ann.
Ann?
I'm not going to go to last name.
No, we don't know that. Ann is good. Ann, congratulations. Hope you're in there again this year.
And I should have brought it in if I'd known we were going to do this. She gave me a painting that says "God Bless America" and stuff that she had done. And when you know the background of it, you say it's beautiful.
Bring it in sometime so we can see it. So you
Sure.
can show Ann's picture of the American flag. Well, another event that I was at last week was a Vivian Mayer exhibit at the Park Arts Center, which I think is like 2 or 5 East Park Boulevard, near Park and Ardmore. And it's a beautiful new art center built by lots of great people, teachers of art here in Villa Park. There's a board of, I think, 5 or 6 that maintain this. And this Vivian Mayer exhibit was a au pair or a nanny from the northern suburbs who all of her life through the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s took photographs when she was not being a nanny. And these photographs were taken of just common things throughout the city of Chicago, downtown Chicago, the suburb or the neighborhoods, like out in the Austin neighborhoods, etc., and also in places like Los Angeles, New York, and they're all in black and white. And she took the photos and never developed the film. Okay, so she had a lot of negatives that were stored in one of those storage lockers. You know, you don't have room for stuff and you don't have a garage, you got to put it somewhere, and you rent a storage locker. And just like Storage Wars, that TV program on the cable, she lost the property when she didn't pay for the storage locker. And all of the contents were auctioned off to somebody. And when they went through it, just like on the show, they found stuff that they didn't want and discovered these crates of negatives. And figured, okay, we'll develop a couple of them. And they saw these beautiful, amazing black and white images, and there are thousands of them. So at the Park Arts Center, the Vivian Mayer exhibit is a small portion of 35 of these prints. They're going to have events of people throughout the month going through July that come out and talk about how they develop some of these prints, how they put them on this special media, a silver gel, I think is what it is, and the copyright issues that come along with this. Now that she's deceased, the family members who are off in France own the rights to these pictures. So if they can be displayed, they can be displayed, but they can't be sold. You know, there's going to have a whole a series of events about that. So it's awesome. We also have a video about that, explaining everything I just told to you and more, and some examples of it on our YouTube channel. But coming up next, Sid, is Summerfest. You go to Summerfest, right?
Absolutely.
Let me tell you what's going to happen at Summerfest this year. Friday, June 17th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. is an awesome car show on the eastern side of Ardmore at Park Boulevard. Live music, and they're going to have a group called 6 to Midnight. It's a rock band, festival favorite, so bring your dancing shoes. Food from the food vendors, and a couple of them are right here in town, or one is definitely here in town. Michael Anthony's Pizza will be there, and Thai Food Chinese Restaurant. They were new to the Summerfest last year. I love that place. Go try it. They have a great lunch special. Maybe we'll go there for lunch, Sid. But beautiful interior, and they will be there with their Chinese American product. And of course, beer is there, and that's a good thing. You can enjoy a beer at the event. And then the following day, Saturday, all kinds of stuff going on. Saturday, June 18th, from 11 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. And by the way, just before that is the Lauren Kiefer 5K walk and run from Willowbrook High School. You can go to that starting at 8 a.m. at Willowbrook High School. Look at Remember Laur, REMBERLAUR.com for details. And then Saturday after that, starting at 11:30, Miners to Rock is a youth rock band. They'll be at the gazebo. 12:20 is Truffle Pigs. That's a cool name. Acoustic duo. Another group at 1:20, a youth original group, Fenced In. So a lot of young, new. You may see the next Rolling Stones at this event. 2:30, Waxworks, Blood Red Boots. Two bands at the same time. It's a modern alternative band group. And 4:10, Henry Stagger, acoustic songwriter. 4:50, Sticks and Stones, a classic rock duo. 5:50, Lake Effect, horn rock. Sounds cool, like trumpets and tubas and stuff like that, trombones. And then 8:30 to 10:10 p.m. in session, which is a classic rock group. And some of the food that will be there also is Firewater Barbecue. They're on Roosevelt Road in Villa Park. And I mentioned Thai Fu, Michael Anthony's, and a lot more. I'm going, Sid. How about you?
No, I'm unfortunately
Out of town?
I'll be out of town. It's the
We should cancel it.
the VFW state convention, and I have been sort of a minor person in that, but I enjoy going and meeting friends that I haven't seen
Well,
since
I'm
the
going to
year
be there.
before.
There's,
and I
there's
really
ride for the
miss it.
kids. There's ride for the kids and lots of things for people to enjoy as a family. They're also going to have the wrestling events right on the corner there. They have actually a championship match this year, so it's more for the championship than just arguing. But a couple other things I want to mention that are coming up this week. Villa Park Bike Club, look for that online. First meeting will be tentatively scheduled after Summerfest, and we're going to have something called peditaxis. Peditaxis are a new thing to have here in town, and I'm going to bring a picture up real quick before we end the show here. There it is. This is going to be a new capability here in Villa Park once we get it all built and everything. But you see that trailer in the back? That will seat 2 adults, 3 children, adult and 2 children. And the bike will be run by people from the Villa Park Bike Club, and it'll be for trips down the path for people who sit in that bench that cannot pedal for themselves or would like to just enjoy the ride. And it will take you down the Great Western Trail, the Illinois Prairie Path, or a big loop around the both. And we'll also use them in the future at places like Oktoberfest, where you're going from Oktoberfest and you need to go back to your car. We could take a petty taxi, as they're called, from the Oktoberfest to your car or your car to Oktoberfest and just have fun. Enjoy the ride and get a chance for people who are not capable of riding to ride on our paths. So it'll be kind of cool. Then the car shows are coming up starting in July, and July 10th, 1 week after the 4th of July, is the first event from 4 to 8 p.m. and they will continue every Sunday then on until September 25th. We'll have weekly awards, DJ, and feature car of the week on our YouTube channel. So that's a lot to talk about, Sid. We've had a great show. Sign off for us.
Just a minute, I wanted to remind you that we have bingo at the VFW every Tuesday night, and starts at 7, early bird 6:45. And I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you've had you've enjoyed us as much as we've been enjoying here with just our plain old bull session. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
All right, folks, thanks for watching Uptown Villa Park. I'm Al Stash. My host and co-host has been Sid Berg, and we will see you next week. Thanks.